In this video, I'm going to discuss about the solid state CBSE class 12, the types of the unit cells. Before going to what are the types of unit cells, let's understand what is a crystal lattice. So if I'm taking a regular solid, I mean the three-dimensional structure of any solid, so the arrangement of these constituent particles, that means the atoms, ions, or the molecules, the constituent particle can be, if I'm taking a crystal, it can be ion, atom, or a molecule. So it is this arrangement of these constituent particles in the three-dimensional structure is called as nothing but the crystal lattice, right? So the regular and the repeating pattern of constituent particles in three-dimensional arrangement is nothing but the crystal lattice. So this is a crystal lattice, and each point here represents a constituent particle here. All the points which I am showing in this crystal lattice is nothing but the constituent particle or the atom or the ion. Yes, it represents, and each point in this lattice is called as a lattice point or the lattice site. So this one here, it is called as lattice point or also called as the lattice site. Right. So, and by joining these lattice point by means of straight lines, we can bring about the geometry of the lattice here. So there are 3 points to be remembered here. The first one is each point here represents an atom, that means a constituent particle, an atom, ion, or a molecule. And this each point is called as a lattice point or the lattice site. And by joining this lattice point, we get the regular arrangement of the or the geometry of the lattice. Yes. Now, what is a unit cell? Yeah, a unit cell is nothing but the small portion of the crystal lattice. So this one, if I take the crystal lattice, the small portion of this is nothing but the unit cell, which by repeating this unit cell through the entire crystal lattice, we can build the crystal lattice in 3 dimensions. So it is the smallest portion of the lattice, which when repeated, by repeating it in 3 dimensionals, we can generate the entire crystal lattice. This is what is a unit cell here, the single unit cell, and these are the lattice points in this unit cell. Yes. And what are the, now this unit cell is characterized by 3 dimensions. Its dimensions can be represented by the edges A, B, and C here. Yes, it is represented by 3 edges A, B, and C here, which are not, may or may not be mutually perpendicular to each other, and angles in between them are represented by alpha, beta, and gamma. If you can see here, between B and C edges, it is called as an alpha, A and C it is called as beta, and A and B it is called as gamma. These are the parameters of the unit cell, and based on the arrangement of these lattice points, we can say that there are 2 types of unit cells here, broadly classified into 2 types, that is primitive unit cell and centered unit cell. And the centered unit cell can be further classified as body centered unit cell, face centered, and end centered unit cells. Let's look at each of them in detail now. Yes, when I take the first one, that is a primitive unit cell, here, if I take this is a simple unit cell, it's a primitive unit cell called as primitive unit cell, in which the atoms, that means a constituent particle, that means atoms, ions, or molecules are present only at the corners. These are the corners. How many corners are there for this cube? If you see, there are 8 corners. So yes, this is a cube. These are the edges and these are the corners, right? And this one is a face. So there are 6 faces, 8 corners, and 12 edges for a cube. So we are looking at for a cube here. So there are 8 corners. So here the atoms or the ions or the constituent particles for that matter is present only at the corners of this unit cell, and so called as a primitive unit cell. So these 8 corners have been occupied by 8 constituent particles in this case. Yes. Such a unit cells are called as primitive unit cells. Next, look at this centered unit cells. That means in the centered unit cells, we have again body centered, face centered, and n-centered unit cells. What are centered unit cells? In centered unit cells, in addition to the corners, the atoms are present not only at the corners but also at some other point of this unit cell, or present in the other positions other than the corners, are called as the centered unit cells. Now let's look at this body centered unit cell. Yes. In this body-centered unit cell, or also called as BCC arrangement, here in addition to the corners, that means 8 corners, we have one more constituent particle or one more ion or atom which is present at the center of the cube. This one, in addition to the corners, we have one at the center. So it is called as body-centered because we have the atom exactly present at the center of this unit cell, so called as body-centered unit cells. So 8 are present at the corners here and one in the center. So called as body centered unit cell. And next one is face centered. So as name itself, we can know in the face centered unit cell, in addition to the atoms, that means the constituent particles present at the corners is yellow ones. You can see we have also the constituent particles which are present at the centers of the faces. So if you can look at this cube, there are 6 faces for this, 1, 2, 3, 4. The front side one and the back side one. So what do you have here? At the centers of these 6 faces, they have 6 atoms. So 8 at the corners, we have 8 constituent particles and 6 in the center of faces. Center of 6 faces, we have these atoms here. So it's so called as face centered unit cell. And next one, when we look at it, last one, that's an n-centered unit cell. In this, in addition to the atoms or the constituent particles, that means atoms, ions, or the molecules which are present at the corners, that means 8 corners, we have also 2 which are present at the center of any 2 opposite faces. So center of any 2 opposite faces, it can be present at these opposite faces in the centers of these 2 faces, or they can be present in the centers of these 2 faces also. So which are 8 atoms which are present at the 8 corners. And also we have 2 atoms here which are present at the centers of 2 opposite faces here. So this is what about these unit cells. Yes, and yeah, if you like my teaching, please do like, share, and subscribe my channel. And if you want any video to be done, you can please comment on the comment section.